I've got a quick question.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, can you chat a little bit about the similarities and dissimilarities between nonviolent movements and repressive regimes?
The differences and similarities?
Yeah.
Okay, the question was the differences and similarities between nonviolent movements and repressive regimes. Never got that question before. Okay, so the differences, I guess, are that repressive regimes typically are actively wielding or threatening to wield some kind of violent coercive force. One thing that makes a state is it claims the monopoly on the legitimate use of force, by definition. And so, like any state is backing up its ability to maintain power through the wielding of force. That's even true in Costa Rica, which does not have a military per se, but they do have armed actors that engage in stability operations and so forth. In terms of another difference between the two, a repressive state doesn't necessarily have to have a lot of legitimacy, right? Mass civil resistance campaigns must have a lot of legitimacy. One of the things I tell people when they're worried about whether the United States is going to have a nonviolent massive uprising, I say, well, no legitimate regime has anything to fear from a nonviolent campaign, which is true. But it also suggests that if you're illegitimate, you probably do have something to fear from a nonviolent mass campaign. And so one of the things that repressive regimes can do is voluntarily get more legitimate. And that will inoculate them against having a massive uprising to contest their control. I guess in terms of similarities, both are collective action. So both require coordination among different actors, some elites, some non-elites. But it kind of depends. I mean, some people say that mass movements that remove a leader, for example, from a repressive regime, but basically do the same thing again after they're in power, are no better than the regime. And so, sometimes there's things that relate to the character or the requests or the demands of the movement that may sound a lot like what the repressive regime is already doing. So I think of places like Thailand as an example, where you have kind of a back and forth of different nonviolent movements, but they don't have what you might call emancipatory aims. For instance, the one that won last year in 2014 won through a coup and was happy about it, right? And the one in 2013 in Egypt won through a coup and was happy about it. And so, just because a campaign is nonviolent doesn't mean that it has what many people would consider as progressive aims. And that's kind of a tension, but again, these campaigns seldom succeed without mass support from the society. And there is a tension between self-determination and progressive values that can go on.